Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Allen West, and as promised, we're here with Zuby, an independent rapper, podcast host, author, public speaker, and creative entrepreneur with over 300,000 followers online. He was born in England, still lives in England, raised in Saudi Arabia, and is a graduate of Oxford University. I think it's a little bit tougher to get into Oxford than the University of Tennessee. Just saying. He has sold over 25,000 albums independently, performed in 8 countries, and achieved over 7 million online video views. Zuby has been featured on The Joe Rogan Experience, the BBC, Fox News, Sky News, The Adam Carolla Show, The Rubin Report, The Candace Owens Show, and The Ben Shapiro Show, amongst others. And so, Zuby, thank you for lowering your standards and being here on with the old Colonel. Appreciate it. How things over there in England?
Yeah, things are good, and it's an honor to be here. I'm happy to be here.
You know, you see what is happening right now in the United States of America. Without a doubt, every single one of us can agree that what happened to George Floyd was heinous. To me, it was offensive to
Mhm.
see, that individual choking out this man over a 6 to 7 minute period. But I want to talk about the influence of culture, which you are part of as a rapper, because what we're seeing the result with all of this violence. I live just outside of Dallas, Texas. Here, we saw riots in Dallas. We had buildings that were destroyed, small business owners that had their shops destroyed. How can we do a better job with our culture as conservatives, as black conservatives and young black conservatives, to get people to understand that this is not the means by which we can create that equality in justice?
Man, that is a big question. That's a big question. I believe that, firstly, I believe that everything is rooted in honesty
Hmm.
and authenticity and being willing to tell the truth and to go by facts and logic and rationality and not just allow, not allow emotions to run everything. So look, we both saw that video. People saw what happened. We know it's painful to watch. It's a very emotional incident. If someone can watch that and they don't feel anything, then that's you've probably got a psychopath on your hands, right? And it's understandable to be angry, to be sad, to feel some kind of outrage. This is a time when we talk a lot about outrage culture, but most of the times when people are outraged, it's not over something worthy of outrage. This is something that was sort of unanimously worthy of outrage. So it's no surprise that people individually and collectively are mad and want answers. But simultaneously, people need to seek, solutions rather than just going towards this destructive attitude. That's the way I look at it. So if you're seeing some of these videos coming out of people fighting and vandalizing and looting and burning down buildings and hurting each other, firstly firstly it's a big distraction from what people should be focusing on. And secondly, it's destructive. It doesn't lead towards any solutions. If anything, that is more likely to make things worse in the long run, as far as I'm concerned. I've spoken to some people about it who have a very different opinion for me and think that the riots and looting are sort of expected and justified, whereas I'm very much in the position, where two things can be wrong simultaneously.
Hmm.
There's been this false dichotomy painted, which is that if you're mad at the George Floyd killing, then you should support the riots and the looting. Or if you don't support the riots or the looting and you denounce that, then apparently you don't care about George Floyd, or you don't care about racism, or you don't care about police brutality. And that's dishonest. You see what I mean? Like, that's a very dishonest position. So people need to, allow people need to be honest and authentic and be willing to not mischaracterize other people's positions or try to demonize each other. And I think a lot of that is just rooted in, I think society as a whole and culture as a whole has encouraged a lot of people en masse to put emotions ahead of clear thinking and rationale and being solutions focused and trying to actually analyze the problem, diagnose the correct problem, and then discuss solutions in an open fashion. People will have different ideas about what those entail, but this is not something that is the issue itself is not something that should be split along political lines or racial lines or anything like that. Whether someone's a Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, everyone can agree, okay, that's a problem. Like, we can't have that happening. Yeah.
Well, then that's the point. I think that everyone could look at that and say, this is wrong. I mean, I came out and said that, you look at that officer, without a doubt, this is a first degree murder. You look at the three officers standing there, they're accomplices to murder. And I don't understand why the city leadership in Minneapolis, I'm sorry, came out with the decisions they did as far as his charges, and the fact that they've been kind of lagging on charging the other three officers. And, when you read about them, you find that these guys had several complaints.
Sure.
And there was nothing done about them in the past. So I think that that's where we need to be focusing on. But you brought up a great point, Zuby, with this thing, the moral relativism, that, you got to be outraged at the George Floyd case. Absolutely. But then you need to accept and understand me going out and destroying buildings and ruining other people's lives in Florida, in Texas, and in Georgia, and in all of these other places that make no sense. So how do we get away from this moral relativism argument that has seemed to have creeped into our society?
Wow, that's a good question, and I think it's difficult because it doesn't seem like everyone does really want the same thing. That's and that's kind of that's sort of painful for me to say because I want to imagine that everybody does, and I think most people do, but there are some people who do seem very, very keen on sowing division and making sure that certain problems that exist remain there because perhaps they've based their entire career around this problem existing, or at least being perceived to exist. So they're not really incentivized to fix the problem. You've also got some people who just they want anarchy. They want destruction. They're opportunists. They're not there looting and burning because they care about George Floyd or his family. They've just seen the opportunity, to go out there in a mask and to cause trouble, and they enjoy it, and they don't like the system, or they feel bad. They don't feel good about themselves. I don't know their reasons, but because of that, it makes it a little bit difficult, because if everyone's at least aiming towards the same goal, then sure, we might have different pathways and different policies and things that we think will lead there, but we at least need to first be sure, okay, this is what we actually want. And then, so it's tricky, but for the people who are aiming for that goal, this is something I've been thinking about a lot myself, because I don't really know I don't know all the answers. I think a big part is, you were talking about culture earlier, and I feel like in our society, in modern Western society, I feel like we need to hold everybody to higher standards. I feel like we're living in a time where you're almost not supposed to have standards in anything. And if you do have standards, you're somehow made out to be the bad guy. And the reason why George Floyd and similar people have been killed in certain instances is because the police standard should be higher. As you said, they investigated these officers and they found that there have been issues in the past. So whether it's in the training, in the hiring, in the investigations, the standard must be higher.
Yes.
You can't police have a very special role in society. They have authority. They have essentially the license to kill. They have they can do things most people cannot. So you can't afford to have, so-and-so police officers. They need to be good. They need to be disciplined. They need to be well trained, because we've seen multiple times now what happens if they're not. And then similarly with the people who are around them, because sure, this is one, people are focusing very much on one officer, but they have to remember in the context that all four of them have some culpability here.
Yeah, they're completely complicit.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally complicit.
Yeah. And this isn't, in most of these situations, it's a gunshot. A gunshot happens very quickly. You can't stop someone firing a gun, really. It's quick. It happens in a blink of an eye, and that's it. In this situation that we saw the video, it went on for minutes and minutes. You'd think at some point someone steps in and says, "Oh, hey man, stop. That's enough." That's all it would have taken. One person just to step up and say, "Okay, enough, stop." And George Floyd would probably still be alive. So we need to hold people up to higher standards. And then similarly, I'm seeing a lot of people making all kinds of excuses, or even, even encouraging people to go out and loot and go out and riot, etc. And that again just represents a fall in standards where, it's like different rules for different people. For the past couple weeks, people have been, we've had this pandemic, and people have been making a big deal about not going outside and social distancing and all this. And I can't help but somewhat laugh at how quickly all of that has just gone out the window, and everyone's just changed their tune. And I'm kind of like, oh, interesting. So if you want to go out and loot and cause trouble, then all of this stuff doesn't matter. But for all the
as long as it aligns with a certain ideological agenda, it is absolutely fine. And that's what drives me crazy, Zuby, is that you had these leaders in the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, that was telling, conservative groups here in the United States of America, if you try to talk about or organize a rally or protest against these stay-at-home orders, we're going to censor you. We're not going to allow you to do that on a platform. Yeah. Yet we're seeing Antifa and all of these other groups, Black Lives Matter, that are laying out their plans. This is where you need to be. This is what you need to do. This is how you do it on Twitter, on Facebook. And yet we hear nothing back from them. So I think, again, that's where we need to have these higher standards, and it has to be consistent.
Has to be consistent. Yeah,
it has to be consistent. Hey, let's finish up talking about you. What's next for you as far as your next big project? What's going on with the rapper Zuby?
Awesome. Well, I've put out my most recent single, "Okay, Dude," which is, the video and the song have been doing well. A lot of people are liking it and enjoying the lyrics and the message. I'm going to just be doing more of everything I already do. So more music, more podcasts. I was supposed to be in the U.S. actually last month and this month, but that's all had to be pushed back. So when I get a chance, I will come out to the U.S. and be doing more events over there. I've been sort of hinting at this. I am in the very, very early stages of starting to look at getting at least a work visa so I can spend more time out in the U.S. because the majority of my audience is there. But what people can expect from me is just more of everything that I already do. I'm always looking to elevate, grow my audience, impact and influence, and inspire more people ultimately.
Well, I tell you, I grew up with the Sugar Hill Gang and everything, and that was just old school rap music. And when I listen to your songs, it gives me a warm heart that I can listen to your song. And it does have an underlying message. It is not just, cursing to a beat. Yeah. So I want to thank you for taking that angle, that approach, because that's important for our young people to not hear this music that drives them into such an angry mode, and to have music that is uplifting, but adhering to, their cultural likes. So I look forward to you, if you ever get a chance to come down here into Texas, Dallas area, come over to the house and we throw a steak on the grill for you. Good old grilled steak, Texas style.
I'd be happy to take you up on that.
Where can people follow you as far as your podcast and pull down some of your work?
Yeah, sure thing. So both my music and podcast are available on all digital platforms, whether that's Apple Music, Spotify, etc. And on social media, that people can find me at Zuby Music, Zuby Music. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Zuby, because what we are in is like a relay race. And as I said, I'm almost 60, and we need you. We need that next generation of strong, young, principled Black men that are going to stand up and make sure that we look toward being victors and not victims. And that's why I'm so honored and so glad that you would be on with me here on the Chairman Chat. So God bless you. God bless all of your work, and keep you safe over there in the United Kingdom. So thank you very much for being with me.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it.
All right, Zuby.